Are basically the grocery stores responsible for inflation at the grocery store? Grocery stores responsible for inflation at the grocery store. Good afternoon. It's Saturday, March 11th, 2023. So, full disclosure here, I do work at a grocery store, and because of the costs associated with running a business, including employee benefits and pay raises, of course I'd be thinking about that since I'm an employee. I don't think that grocery stores are fully responsible. And I'm just gonna I pondered about this for a little bit and say a few reasons why. One, I did come across a couple of articles back in the past during the pandemic when people really flooded the grocery stores because of the COVID. And basically, there were lines like aisles back long because of this panic. Water bottles were sold. So you've got all of this aquaflation, we know, which is like waterflation. You've got other stuff that I'm going to be getting into. But basically, consumer demand caused, the article said, that consumer demand caused orders to flow through, and then the shippers were shipping, and then gas prices, of course, for the shippers went up, and all of this stuff. And that went on later when the gas prices for the shippers went up because people were not driving for a while, and oil, the commodity, you had to pay money to give it to someone to store, because it was costing them money just to hold it. Some people, they got huge percentage returns on it. You could basically get rich if you had a place to hold the oil and be like, pay me this much per barrel until they can come pick it up and stuff like that. And then you could sell it again when they were ready to refine the oil into however fuel. And so that was really incredible during that time. So basically, the shippers had to pay overtime and stuff, and so they went up on their costs. And that messed with the entire supply chain. And basically, it didn't just get to the retailers because they have them shipped from the shipping store and stuff. That also got they got the manufacturer, the original makers of whatever grocery store product. And then they also brought up, and then it still didn't slow down. Like when I see at my store, is that the product runs out. So when it shows back up, the customer doesn't go, oh, it's here, let me grab one or two, or however much for my one person, two person household. Let me act like I've got 50 people in my household and clear the whole shelf. And then, so what happens is people go, oh, okay, that item's not there. So instead of getting that product, I'm going to either clear the shelf of another product that I already have is there, or they would have that money available to buy something else. So they still would spend the money on the product that was missing, but when they had it, and they still too might clear the shelf of that product. And the clearing of the shelf, still to this day, I mean, especially when it's on sale, that does not end of just, I don't want to say even clearing the shelf, but I mean, we're not even talking about major couponers here. We're just talking about, if it's allowed, unless there's a limit that's posted, they clear the shelf, and so, that was one thing. Then you've got the maker of the product bringing up the price. You got the manufacturer, so that's the maker. You got the manufacturer, the shippers, and you got shippers to the store. Well, the margin on the product, if the margin on that product is all of a sudden 1 or 2%, and grocery stores already had a low margin anyway, they would also need to increase the margin, because if the customer has less money, if the budget's still $100, they still need to make that $9 on that $100. And you can read reports on various grocery stores. The margins can be typically very small. And so basically you're spending $100, and maybe some people, that's not what's happening. They are getting same or less amount of product, and they are spending more, right? And it's also because of what has also been going on for quite a few years, but has become more prevalent, is the shrinkflation. So, like, they made the Pearl Milling Company versus Aunt Jemima, their product supposedly is now taller, but I think I saw it taller, but it's actually less syrup in the bottle. And so people just go, oh, it looks the same. You could also make the plastic thicker or the glass thicker. You could also fill it with air. So basically, ice cream has been notable that they have a lot of air in the product. So you're paying air, and it's the same container size, a lot like chip bags. Chip bags when I was younger used to be 2/3 the way full. It might be half the size, half of the bag in there's full, and if you were unlucky with it, then you got a bunch of crumpled chips in there anyway. So you've got shrinkflation, and um, you might have greed on certain products, but that can only go so far when people do refuse the products. Now, what I've also seen at the store is people go, oh, it's more expensive, so they're going to go off to another product, or they're going to go to a store brand product, and that increases those prices. But I do notice the more expensive, if it was already the more expensive price, if the price has increased at all, it's been increased much less than the cheapest or cheaper alternatives. And some of those prices are still, could be around the same range. Like I said, if it was a more expensive, like a $5, $6 loaf of bread versus the 89-cent, 99-cent loaf of bread is now up to, I think, $1.39 right now. Which people go, oh, that's still a good price. Well, it just depends on what kind of bread you want. If you don't even really want that bread, but you switched over the cheapest brand to lower that. Of course, eggs. Eggs were on sale. My grocery store changes from week to week, but I remember seeing sales. The sale was like 59-cent eggs, 89-cent eggs in the past, and all of a sudden the cheapest eggs were like $3.99 for the longest time. And so you've got that going on. So cheaper products. Now that could be possibly the bird flu and stuff like that. But the price of poultry has also changed. There was supposedly a really big scheme that was going on with some major chicken manufacturers around that time of the pandemic time. And they had to pay a fine for artificially increasing like price collusion of some sort. And you can look that up. And that happened in recent years. But of course, the ground beef, which typically had been more expensive, has also been, sometimes it goes on sale at the store I work at. So those are just various things. And I just wanted to bring that to the attention. I also thought that the stimulus, of course, you've got the stimulus. And I'm not talking about parties or anything, write a comment, oh, it's this party, it's that party. It's not, I don't think it's the parties. I think that stimulus would have happened either thing. I just think that stimulus, when people have money in their pocket, of course, that offers opportunity to spend where they otherwise would not have spent, because maybe they wouldn't have had the money. Or maybe they just said, no, I have the money, so I'm going to spend that extra $1. I'm going to spend that extra $3. I'm going to spend an extra $10, because that was up to, for a single person without kids, $3,000. And then you got up to 2 or 3 kids, an extra $500 or $600. So you had a huge opportunity there for people earning $75,000. You could have 2 people, a household, have $150,000 together, and they could have had kids, and they also got another $500, $600 per kid, which, is really crazy. Of course, they might not need the money as much, so they might have invested it in the stock market, and you have more investors. Of course, the stock market reflected that, and then so it was possibly they said overinflated. That's why we had the market go down a lot in 2022. So it's still 2023 right now. So, it's doing what the market's doing, whatever. And I'm not a financial advisor. It's just my perception of it. But I was just like, you know what? I don't think that as much as you go, well, and I do lean on closer to the socialistic side of things, where it's so easy to blame the big company, and hey, they're not trickling down the theory, and because I don't think companies do trickle down. I think history is going to look back and they're going to say, oh, what were y'all thinking, saying that they trickle down and they keep the money. And history has shown they keep the money and they don't trickle it down. And if they did trickle it down, it would probably still be to senior executives. It wouldn't be to the low-level maids, cashiers, and construction workers, and so on and so forth. And that's just the way that it works. And I'm not saying that it's either, you take your opinion on it, but I don't think that. And because I don't think that, I think that it goes hand in hand. It goes not hand in hand, but it's sort of opposite for me to think that, hey, I don't think that the company is sitting there saying, oh, let's just keep this money, bring up the price and keep this money, and, not offer it to the workers or pay the bills. And if the electricity company goes up in price, they've got to pay all of these bills. You see, it goes to uniforms, it goes to the electricity, like I said, it goes to paying any other contracts on machine maintenance that they have going on. It goes into all the factors, paperwork, other shipping things that come in each day. And so you have this whole mechanism, but really, it's just my point of view. Of course, you do want them not to go up, but it's so easy to blame a necessity item such as food, water, shelter, vehicles, and stuff like that. It's always easier to blame that. But like I said, since I don't think expensive items, you could probably check luxury items like on Black Friday, maybe laptops, iPhones. A lot of those prices might not have budged. You can probably still get good trade-ins on your cell phone. And, leather jackets, something that's going to be much more expensive, might not have that. Or if they do, then they might have what's called a sale, right? So you have the store, Bath and Body Works. And if they're listed on the exchange, I don't think that I own them unless it's in a mutual fund. But Bath and Body Works, they sell expensive stuff, so you do have the opportunity, like, hey, if you're buying Michael Kors, for instance, or things have gone so expensive, you could be like, I'm going to get the perfume type from Bath and Body Works, which I think is personally still expensive, but it's much cheaper than Michael Kors or other perfumes. And they have, to me, luxury lotions and stuff that are more expensive. But you have this mechanism where I've looked at it over the years, and I remember it being like $10 for a bottle of lotion back in the 1990s, and I think it was $14. But they have sales. They have the Christmas brand probably became 70% off or whatever percentage off, 30%. My mom goes there and she's like, oh, they have this sale. And I'm like, okay, let's go, since we were already going, but it doesn't mean I'm buying anything from there. And if I am, it's only because I think that I could get a comparable price at another store for a basic lotion of that size. I might still be paying luxury, but I don't treat myself that often. And it's only like maybe a few dollars, like I said, $4. And I might get a small bottle of lotion, and then I have that. But that is also a clearance item. And are they probably still profiting? Who knows those numbers? So it's going to depend on their margins and stuff. And they have a loyalty program, I think. But these loyalty programs and all that goes hand in hand with the luxury items that are available out there and how those prices have increased. Like a luxury grocery item, how those prices have increased. If you look at to the needs, people are going to be a lot less harsh, I think, if Bath and Body Works were to go up, 350%. They would be like, oh, okay, or if Apple or something were to go up 350% on older model phones or something, and people would probably be like, hey, you're a luxury item, maybe I should switch to an Android. So that was just something that I thought of. But anyway, this has been going on for about 15 minutes, and it's just my takes. There's some other things that I come across. They're changing up the ingredients, and it was like, well, from vegetable oil to water, but it looks like I'm flashing, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to last. So comment, like, subscribe, and follow if you have anything to say. But yeah, so it was just like, oh, if while I still have time, if I get cut off, I get cut off. But it was vegetable oil, switching that out for water, and switching all this other stuff out for, the more expensive ingredients as well, and that like changes the recipe altogether, but you don't even know it unless they said, hey, we changed this ingredient. And of course they changed the packaging. And so expenses of today's society. And so do I think that grocery stores are price gouging? I think that there are a number of factors that go into it, and that there could very well just be operating a business. But that's just my point of view. From someone who might even be considered, like, I don't want to say anti-big business, but anti-exploitation. I'll say that, a big business, when businesses exploit or what have you. So anyway, thank you for your time, and have a good one.